It's not really a retirement.
What is it?
It's working every day.
It's hard. 77, still busting my butt.
More than half of the people who are retired right now do not have enough money to be retired.
In 1980, the average American retired at age 62. By 2025, millions of people will still be working at age 75, and that cycle could last for the rest of their lives. America once promised that as long as you work hard, save and live responsibly, one day you will rest. But that promise has now been swept away with rent, medical bills, and debts that have never disappeared. The people who built this whole country, veterans, workers, teachers, nurses, are still standing behind stalls, driving food deliveries, or taking night shifts in hospitals. Not because they want to, but because they can't stop. A lifetime of work, 4 decades of dedication, but when the sunset comes, the only reward they receive is exhaustion. Because in America today, retirement is no longer a right, but a privilege only for those rich enough to buy it. In today's video, we will delve into why 40 years of work is still not enough to survive in the US, and why the American dream is gradually turning into the American debt. Because perhaps what is collapsing is not just the pension system, but also the belief that hard work will bring about a dignified life. Who hasn't dreamed of a peaceful old age in the sunny and windy land of Florida, where the morning starts with a cup of coffee on the porch and the afternoon ends with the sound of waves gently crashing on the beach? However, that dream seems to be getting further and further out of reach. For many Americans, even after working for half a century and reaching the age of 7, retirement is no longer a reward for years of dedication, but becomes a new war. The fight to continue to survive in an economy with no room for rest. The cost of living escalates day by day, while the fixed income from Social Security has almost stagnated. Rent, electricity, water, health insurance are all rising, pushing many elderly people into a difficult position. Just one unexpected medical bill or one rent increase for a landlord is enough for them to fall into crisis, losing their house, losing their part-time job, and losing their fragile sense of security. And so, instead of enjoying peaceful days, many people enter old age in a state of constant anxiety. They know that they are only one bill, one pain, one phone call of price increase from the miserable scene. A woman in her 60s said that every morning she woke up in an old truck, not knowing where to park her car tonight to sleep. At this age, she should have been in a warm house, but now the only thing she hopes for is to have a place to cook and rest. Living in a car is extremely difficult, she said. Everything is limited, from space, clean water to cooking. But it's the only option when the rent is out of reach. Dedicated to nearly 40 years of life, their hair has turned white. Yet now many people have to live in old RVs, moving constantly to avoid being fined or having their cars pulled away. Is this the American dream that millions of people have dreamed of? A form of retirement beyond the system is quietly spreading across states like Florida, Arizona, and California. Many bystanders may find it difficult to imagine living in a truck, using a bucket instead of a toilet, and having to bathe in a gas station or public lake. But for those involved, it is not a choice, but a necessity. When income and compensation are almost frozen, while rent and living costs escalate dramatically, even the kindness of retirement becomes a luxury. In the state of Florida, rents have skyrocketed 40 to 50% in just 5 short years, forcing scores of seniors to leave their apartments to live on the streets, in trucks, or even in the middle of the woods. Many people wonder, after a lifetime of work, what have they tried for? All those years of work, savings, and dedication is probably just enough in exchange for a place to sleep outdoors. The statistics don't show all the pain, but they don't lie. In 2023, more than 42,000 Americans over the age of 65 were homeless, and researchers warn that this number could surpass 100,000 by 2030 if the cost of living continues to escalate without a strong enough intervention policy. Sadly, many of them have never had to live on the streets before. They are people who used to have stable jobs, used to pay taxes, used to own their own house, and only lost everything after a rent increase, a medical debt, or an illness that prevented them from continuing work. That generation of people who once believed they had done enough, contributed enough, have now become victims of an economy that makes retirement no longer a stop, but a burden. Across the United States, images of stalled cars on the side of roads, makeshift tents in parks, are slowly becoming the most desperate symbol for the American dream. And if you still can't stop working all your life, what does retirement mean? If the generation that once believed that working hard would bring peace now has to live in trucks or tents, is the American dream losing its very soul? Where hard work was once a promise, not a verdict. Americans today no longer seem to be able to work with the same peace of mind as before. The shadow of worries about whether I have saved enough to retire is always covering all future plans. Instead of contributing with a sense of security, many people enter their twilight years in a state of insecurity because they know that with just one additional expense, a small fluctuation, the lifetime pension fund can disappear in just a few months. According to recent studies, nearly 40% of American households are at risk of having a lower standard of living in retirement, and more people are forced to return to work even in their 70s. The story of Larry and Joyce Gesick in Florida is a clear testament to that reality. Mr. Larry, 77, a former electrician, leaves home every morning at 5:30 to work the morning shift at the supermarket for $14.75 an hour. Ms. Joyce, 66, still works full-time in a law office for $14 an hour. When asked about his retirement age, all he could share was, "It's not really a retirement. It's working every day. They once retired, then returned to the labor spiral, not because they wanted to, but because they had to." They are just two of 11 million Americans, or 1/5 of those over 65, who are still working to sustain themselves. One economist calls it the work, retire, repeat syndrome. Work syndrome, retire, and then work again. Economist Teresa Ghilarducci once commented, "More than half of the people who are retired right now do not have enough money to be retired." She believes that the root cause of this tragedy began 40 years ago, when America replaced the traditional pension system with the 401k, one failed experiment, according to her. The new system turns old age security into a personal burden. Workers must invest themselves, save themselves, and bear the market's own risks. For many people of the Larry and Joyce generations, 401k no longer means source of retirement income, but just like a temporary savings account. They withdraw money when needed, without realizing that the money is meant to last the rest of their lives. When age and illness came, they realized that save their whole life was like a water bottle that had run out of. The sooner they were thirsty, the longer they were thirsty. Currently, the Gesick couple is still saddled with home mortgage debt, car debt, and about $12,000 in credit card debt. After paying all expenses, they only have about $50 per month left, which is so small that it makes all future plans ambiguous. Even though they have old pensions, social security, and current salaries, they are still short before and after, living in the feeling that is okay today, but not necessarily enough for tomorrow. Their story is no exception, but a mirror of millions of other Americans who have spent their lives working hard, only to discover that when they reach retirement age, they still can't stop. In America today, work seems to have become retirement, and retirement are just an empty concept. The future of the elderly generation is fading in the economic tunnel, dark, uncertain, and with no clear light at the end of the road. Whether you're past 65 or still on your journey there, perhaps the biggest lesson lies not in the numbers in the account, but in the preparation. prepares not to turn your retirement dreams into a marathon never has a destination. Almost half of retired people in the US today don't have enough money to make ends meet, basically, is a scary number in the world's richest country. But this tragedy is no coincidence. Many economists claim that it originated from an experiment that began more than 40 years ago, when America decided to replace the fixed pension system with the 401k model, a program promoted as financial freedom for workers. Adopted in 1978, 401k was introduced as a way to help people proactively save for retirement, allowing them to invest and take control of their financial future. It may sound like progress, but behind that promise is a systemic mistake. It puts the responsibility that belongs to businesses and state onto the shoulders of individuals, while the majority of workers are not at all prepared for that. They are not taught how to invest, do not understand the market, and also do not have enough income to financial freedom as the policy once promised. Many people start looking at a 401k account as just a temporary savings book. When they have urgent medical expenses, car repairs, or support for their children, they withdraw money without realizing that it is for the last years of their lives. And when the economy is volatile, the market is falling, or inflation is escalating, what they invest freely suddenly becomes so small that it cannot support a minimal life. In the past, the fixed pension system ensured that employees had a stable income for life after leaving work. Now, everything depends on the volatility of the stock market and on each individual's ability to invest. The result? Workers move from being protected to taking on their own risks. A system once created to provide safety has left millions of people living in insecurity. If the pension system is built to protect workers, why are they the ones who bear the greatest risk? And when a policy turns into a failed experiment, who will be responsible for a generation that believed in it? In America, debt never sleeps. From quiet houses in the suburbs to small apartment complexes in the city, everywhere there are traces of unfinished loans. The bills thickened over the months, piling up on the wooden table covers where family photo frames used to be placed. People used to believe that when they retired, they would be free. But now, that freedom is locked in bold numbers on credit card statements. Researchers estimate that more than 45% of Americans over the age of 65 are still owed home mortgages, and about a third still have credit card or car loan repayments. That's no longer the exception, but has become the new norm for American retirement. After more than 40 years of work, instead of resting, many people continue to work extra evening shifts at supermarkets or gas stations, not to satisfy their passion, but to keep their bank accounts from falling to zero. In an AARP survey, nearly 40% of seniors said they were forced to work after retirement just to pay off debt. The American credit system operates like a ladder without a final step. Pay a little each month, but interest always causes the debt to swell faster than it can afford. A Texas woman said she paid for the house for 25 years, but still owed the bank more than $30,000 for interest. For older people, income declines while medical and living expenses skyrocket. Debt is no longer a temporary phase, but a permanent status. Health is the final blow that causes many people to fall. A chronic illness, a surgery, or just a prescription can wipe out all of a person's life savings. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, 1 in 5 Americans over the age of 65 have unpaid medical debt, and more than half of them say they don't know when they can pay it off. Meanwhile, drug prices and nursing home costs continue to rise, making maintaining health a risky bet as well. The once iconic car of American freedom is now also a burden. Many elderly people have to borrow to buy back a used car just to have a means to work part-time or go to the hospital. And the house, symbol of the American dream, has now turned into constant debt, where every month they have to choose: pay the mortgage or pay for medicine. In places like Phoenix or Tampa, with just one rent hike or an unexpected roof fix, the whole retirement plan could collapse in the blink of an eye. Those debts not only take away money, but also take away self-esteem. A 74-year-old man shared on NBC, "I used to think retirement meant freedom, but now I'm just free to continue to repay debt." The saying sounds as light as a breeze, but contains the bitterness of an entire generation of who have devoted themselves to the country, but still cannot afford peace. Experts call this phenomenon the endless cycle of debt. Cycle has no end. Repay the debt, borrow more, then work again to repay the debt. As debt became a legacy that every generation carried, the concept of retirement seemed to have been removed from the American working class dictionary. But in the middle of that dark picture, there are still glimmers of light. Organizations such as Fidelity and the AARP Foundation are implementing debt consolidation and financial consulting programs, helping seniors renegotiate interest rates and plan more realistic spending. They can't wipe out debt overnight, but can help them find the most precious thing, hopes for. If a lifetime of work is still not enough to rest, what does retirement mean? And if an entire generation that built America remains trapped in a spiral of debt, will the next generation dare to believe that the American dream is still worth pursuing? As the cost of living escalates and rents exceed affordability, more and more seniors in the US have no choice but to live in trucks, tents, or vacant lots on the edge of the city. The roads that used to be where they drove to work now become where they built their last house. An old, corrugated iron roof, a tourist gas stove, a few plastic water bottles, and a bucket to make toilet. People call it normalizes misery, when people are forced to adapt to the absurd to survive. In the parking lots dotted around Florida or Arizona, many elderly people still manage to maintain order and dignity in circumstances where there is nothing left to keep. A woman said, "I'm used to it, as long as I have a place to sleep." A seemingly simple saying, but contained in it is both acceptance and exhaustion of when stabilizes now just means finding safe parking overnight. A man who worked for nearly 20 years recalled that after losing his job due to illness, he was kicked out of his apartment and had to sleep outdoors in the heat of 107 degrees. No electricity, no air conditioning, no full dinner. "I don't think my life will end like that," he said, "but at least I'm still alive." That is the philosophy of survival that has replaced the dream of retirement. Retirement not as freedom, but as survival. In those makeshift communities, people learn to bathe at church, use bottled water to wash their faces, eat one meal a day, and share each box of charity items with each other. Life on the street is no longer the free choice, like the images that travel videos once praised, but the last choice of those who have worked all their lives and still don't have enough to rent a roof. The sight of old RVs lining up on the side of the highway or minivans with window blinds has now become the new symbol of the American retirement dream. A distorted dream, where is free means there is no place to go. And the next generation, young people who are watching their parents retire on the one wheel, are probably also wondering, if this is how the previous generation had to live, then where will their future go? When the American dream is no longer a home, but just an overnight parking spot, is free still a dream, or has it become the price to pay for existence? For millions of elderly Americans, Social Security was once the only lifeline for them to cling to in old age. However, that float is now tearing over time. The majority of pensioners now rely on benefits of as little as $1,000 to $1,900 per month, while the average rent in many cities has exceeded $2,000. That means that even after working, paying taxes, and contributing for life, many people still don't have enough to pay for a home. That subsidy, which has not changed in time with inflation and rising medical costs, forces many people to make choices that no one deserves to face in their twilight, between buying medicine or paying rent. A former teacher shared, "We take better care of prisoners than the elderly." That statement may sound harsh, but it deeply reflects the feeling of being forgotten by an entire generation that believed that the system would protect them when the time came to weaken. Many of them were workers, teachers, drivers, office workers, who have contributed to the economy for decades. Now they live in temporary housing, parking lots, or wait for the housing support list to last indefinitely without a response. In states like Arizona, Nevada, and California, senior-specific shelters are springing up, but they're all overloaded, with waiting lists in the thousands. Worse still, social budget cuts in many localities are threatening the entire security system. Lucky people who are still receiving benefits now have to live in a situation where, has enough to eat today, worry about tomorrow. Others have to work extra in their late 80s or depend on charity programs for dinner. In a country that once prided itself on prosperity, those scenes make people wonder, is society's humanity eroding with pensions? If the system once created to protect workers can no longer hold them, then who will protect the next generation? As money gradually dries up and trust wavers, can humanity replace what has been lost? Or is it also dwindling with time? When we look back, perhaps the scariest thing is not the numbers. 40 years of work, 70 years of age still working, 100,000 elderly homeless. But the silence that is gripping America, a country that once prided itself on everyone having the opportunity to rise up, now seems to be watching. The generation that built it gradually disappear in the hidden corners of society. People who used to believe that working hard was enough now have to learn to survive with courage. The old roofs are now old trucks. Family dinners are now charity meals. And the streets that once shone with the lights of the American dream are now a haven for the very people who once believed in it. Can a country call itself prosperous when the very people who created it have no place to grow old in peace? If retirement has turned into survival, then what's left of American dream? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe that the dream of retirement still exists? Or is it just a memory of a generation? If this video touches you, don't forget to click like, share to spread this story, and subscribe to the channel to explore with us real-life pieces, where the American dream is gradually fading in the sunset. The content in this video is made for the purpose of analyzing, sharing information, and evoking a social perspective, not to criticize or accuse any individual, organization, or government. All figures, stories, and characters are quoted from public, verified sources or from independent reports in order to faithfully reflect the implementation of the social, economic status in the United States. The video does not represent any political, religious, or party views. Any comments, shares, or opinions in the discussion are welcome if constructive, respectful, and humane. The goal of the channel is to stimulate dialogue, awaken empathy, and encourage the community to think about the issues that are directly affecting people, especially the generations that have contributed to creating this country.